What's good, everybody? We are on the road. That means one thing and one thing only. You know the background. We're on the road for the Tour Championship. That's why we're here. Welcome into the Early Wedge, part of the Early Edge universe. Every single week since January, we have been here. This is our final show of the year, except we'll have one more for the Ryder Cup coming up in a month. So we have no time to waste. This is a very special week. It's a very different week, so be very, very careful. Hashtag educate and entertain. Let's bring in the stars of the show, and then I'm going to show you the odds because I've got to give all three of these a very special welcome and thank you for a great season. First and foremost, Patrick McDonald from CBS Sports.com. You can see him everywhere. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon, fellas. Yeah, I mean, time flies when you're having fun. Can't believe season one is about to be in the books, but there's money to be made in Hot Atlanta this week, fellas.
You're damn right. Up next, he is the counselor of cash, and he can do every sport, including PGA Tour. See ya, Nejad. Good afternoon.
I don't know, Coach. I'm not feeling the vibes after you went first and foremost with Patrick McDonald. I'm feeling a little sketchy right now. I'll take a back seat.
Wow. Doesn't faze me at all. Last, but certainly not least, he's been a great addition to the CBS family. I work with him on PGA Tour Live all the time as well. The incredible Steve Scott. Steve, welcome back.
What's going on, everybody? Really great to be with everybody for this final week in Atlanta. I can't wait to kind of see how this whole thing is going to shake out. 30 players, and we're really funneling this thing down to number one.
Oh, and Scotty Scheffler, the first player ever to be the number one seed back-to-back years. So let's go ahead and show you how it's all going to stack up this week, because if you're brand new to this particular Tour Championship, it's a staggered start. That's why it's so important to finish as high as you possibly can. So here's where the players are going to start. Scotty Scheffler starts at -10. Victor Hovland, after that win at the BMW Championship, he will start 2 back. And then you see the rest of the names 5 at 4, 3, 2, 1, and, of course, even par. So with this staggered start, it begs the question, how do we bet it? Well, we'll get to that in a second. But first and foremost, let's do storylines that could affect the betting lines. And before we do that, Steve, I want you to educate us, about 45 seconds, if you don't mind, on what Eastlake is truly all about.
Yeah, Eastlake, what a great golf course. I mean, it's the shrine. It's the home of Bobby Jones. If you've ever been in the clubhouse at Eastlake, you know what I'm talking about. It's one of the most dramatic clubhouses aside from the golf course. It's really amazing. But this golf course, it's going to determine these players who end up cashing home the big $18 million first prize. But the golf course is very much a straight back and straight down type of golf course. And I think that's why you see a guy like Rory McIlroy play so well here. He can put that driver in his hands and just absolutely send it as far as possible. Not much water comes into play on this golf course, only a couple holes. The strokes gained stat is going to be really big this week, and we'll go through that as we continue through all the picks today. But gained off the tee, super, super important this week. So look at those players who are playing well in that realm.
All right. Thank you, Steve, very much. Now, we're going to start right at the top and see I'm coming to you for your storyline, because Scotty Scheffler, he's already won. He set a PGA Tour record already, north of $21 million. He can certainly add to that this week. He's also trying to become just the second player ever to win the Players' Championship and the FedEx Cup in the same year. Rory did it back in 2019. But it begs the question, can he close? You're up.
Yeah, can he close? We've seen him sort of wilt this time of year when the FedEx Cup playoffs come around. And by the way, when I say wilt, I mean wilt relative to some of the best golfers in the world. So in this situation, I just think it would be very unusual if Scotty Scheffler didn't actually win the Tour Championship, because he's been so good, particularly tee to green. So I'm just really looking to see if we see a little bit of pop in his putter. We saw it a couple days last weekend, but man, to me, I feel like this is Scotty's to lose, but it was Scotty's to lose last Sunday too, and we saw Victor Hovland charge back. There's a lot of guys in the chase pack. Is Scotty going to close? He should. He really should. He's been so good this year, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
And let's keep in mind, so many storylines out there are like, well, what's too far back? How far is too far back? Well, Victor Hovland was 4 back with 9 to play on Sunday. So this staggered start should mean nothing, right, Patrick?
Exactly, Coach. I think the real question going into the week is how far back is too far back. This is only the 5th time that the Tour Championship has had the staggered start. You have 2 winners from the pole position, Patrick Cantlay in 2021, Dustin Johnson in 2020, and then 2 winners from far back. They both just happened to be Rory McIlroy. Last year, he won from -4. Technically, he lost 3 strokes on that first hole with an opening triple bogey. So he was honestly 9 back with 71 holes to play, and he won from -5 in 2019. So if you look at those in the -4 area, you got Max Homa, Patrick Cantlay, more than capable of putting together a few rounds. And then -3, if you want to go that far back, Tommy Fleetwood, Russell Henley, Xander Schauffele, who has dominated around East Lake in his young career. So yes, Scotty Scheffler has a huge advantage with those 2 strokes on a golf course that really doesn't produce a ton of variance in the scoring realm, but there's a lot of big hitters right behind him.
You're damn right there is. I had no clue that I'd be hitting the block button this early in the show, but apparently I'm going to. Hill to Top says, keep the camera on Scott. He's the knowledgeable one. I'd be offended if I'm Patrick or Sia. Clearly, he's not talking about me in that statement. All right, Steve-O, talk to me about stroke.
All the strokes gained, huh?
Yeah.
The really, I mean, you got to think about what happened here last year and how this is really going to affect the players who play well here. Of the top 7 last year at the Tour Championship in the strokes gained off the tee, all 7 of them finished in the top 7 in the final standings at the Tour Championship. 2021, very similar. 4 of the 5 who were in the top 5 of the strokes gained off the tee were in the top 9. So, this may be a very interesting week. If you're not feeling really comfortable with this staggered start and all the things that are going on in your picks, this might be a great live betting week to, get a round or 2 under your belt, kind of see how the strokes gained off the tee stats are playing, kind of see how everything is shaking out. And then maybe you throw a little bit here or there. But this may be an interesting week as far as that goes.
You just warmed my heart. Sia, did you just hear Steve talk about live betting? The golfer? I mean, come on. Now, come on.
I'm trying to learn.
You are. You're leading the charge. Clearly, he'll do tough things so as well. Now, I will get to the rock mic in a moment. But let's get into DFS while I fix myself out here on the road, because this is a very, very weird week. Sia, give me 3 that you like. Give me a fade.
Yeah, it's such a weird week because there's a lot of guys that you might consider to be really good bargains, but they're so far back. And what that means from a DFS standpoint is a couple of different things, but mainly they're not going to be getting a lot of finishing position points. A lot of the guys that are starting at even par or -1, they don't really have a chance to win the tournament that far back, but also they don't have a huge chance to chase down a bunch of finishing position points. With all of that said, I do think there are some guys in that -3, -4 category, which for the record, from a DFS finishing position standpoint, we're talking about 5 or 6 points allocated to those guys for finishing there. Well, if they can really, pile up some birdies over 4 rounds and pass a lot of guys, then all of a sudden some of those guys could finish 4th or 5th and get 16 finishing points instead of the 6 while getting more birdies than those guys that they are passing. So that's why, and I see Patrick is focused on this as well, that's why I'm focused largely on some of these guys in sort of that middle bottom area. I've got Rory McIlroy here at 13,000. Listen, you can pick anybody here. You can pick Rory, you can pick Victor Hovland, you can pick Scotty Scheffler. Of those 3, I have a feeling Rory and Hovland will be 2 of the more popular ones. So, pick your poison there. I mean, I think any of those guys are in play, but it's Russell Henley and Sam Burns that I really want to focus on. I think Russell Henley's really interesting at 8,300. He is really striking the ball well. Fleetwood is another guy in the same range at 8,800, really striking the ball well. They're at that -3 range, which allows them, if they have good rounds, to really start passing people, piling up the points with the birdies, but also piling up the points with potential finishing position points at the end of the tournament. So those are the guys in the mid 8K range I'd consider. And then Sam Burns at 6,100, off the tee, listen, he's okay. He's not exactly accurate, but greens in regulation, he's been really good. The approach play has been really good. I think Sam Burns is starting to catch a little bit of fire that's going a little bit unnoticed. So I think at 6,100, even though he's super far back, I think he can have a few good rounds and start kind of making an impact on that leaderboard to some degree. And then my fade's going to be Matt Fitzpatrick. Nice tournament last week. I wasn't really buying into him last week. And frankly, he did a lot of it with the short game, specifically with the putter. At 10,000, it's just not a buy for me.
Yeah, Matthew Fitzpatrick is the only player The only player, am I on the right mic? I'm saying only, just make sure I'm on the right mic. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. The only player to move from outside the top 30 last week into the top 30. There was only one. So, Patrick, let me come to you. Why do you like these three? And I don't blame you for Jon Rahm. He went from first, and now he's going to start all the way back and forth.
Yeah, I'm riding with Colin Morikawa again at 7,700. He starts at -1. He's been gaining everywhere for the past handful of months, and I'm really just going down with the ship at this point. I think it's a great course fit for him. East Lake, you got to put the ball in the fairway. Iron play has to be sturdy, and he certainly does that well. And then these two guys, I'm really looking for kind of just flash in the pan, a crap load of upside, and both these guys have it. Jordan Spieth, 6,700. I know he didn't play great last week, really faltered down the stretch. Lucky to even be playing at East Lake, but he's played well here before. He had 4 sub-70 rounds at this golf course last year. He was great at the St. Jude Championship, leading after the first round there. So he has shown a bit of form recently, and he has shown to like this golf course. And then Emiliano Grillo at 5,700. T10 in his lone appearance. That's when there was no staggered start. T20 at the St. Jude Championship, T10 at the 3M, T6 at the Open Championship. He's just playing great golf, and I know he's coming from even par, but he has been someone who can make birdies in bunches and make up ground very quickly. So, look, I see some of these guys passing that 5 under. Lucas Glover, the 4 at the top are going to be difficult to surpass, but once it gets to Lucas Glover, I think you're going to be seeing a lot of changeover, and those two guys I like to make a run. And then, yeah, I honestly was going to fade Matt Fitzpatrick as well, and then I saw Sia's pick in the document, so I changed it to Jon Rahm because Matt Fitzpatrick was 30th in driving accuracy the last 3 months. Jon Rahm's 29th. You think about Jon Rahm, this prodigious driver of the golf ball. Well, it's been quite poor recently, and that's not the only part of the game. 14th tee to green, 19th around the green, 20th putting during that same span. So even though he has a decent history here, was a low guy in 2021, he just doesn't seem to have it at this point, and I'd rather go with a Rory or a Scotty at the top.
30 consecutive weeks. 30 consecutive weeks. Jon Rahm was at number 1. And now he makes it the final event of the year, and he's going to start a full 4 shots back. Now, gentlemen, we got a little good news, a little bad news from the chat. First of all, Rebecca, she's always got our back. She said, how rude, Hill to top. But then as I go down, look who just came in, experiencing FOMO at its worst or at its best. EC is in the chat. If you have any questions for EC, put them in the chat. He will answer them for you in real time. And EC, stop with the trying to get compliments from everybody. Big cheesy. He tells you that every time. Be better. Now, speaking of being better, the entire Early Edge crew, we're better all over the place. I'll be hosting Primetime Scoreboard tonight at 8 o'clock. My boy Patrick and Sia, they'll be on HQ tomorrow to talk about the Tour Championship everywhere. But a little reminder for those of you that are new, here.
Get breaking news.
Big news coming out of the NFL today.
Highlights and instant reaction.
The largest final round comeback in Tour Championship history. We're down to the final 4.
I just want to take time to analyze greatness.
Talk winners and losers with a guy who's already a big winner. CBS Sports HQ. It's all sports all day long.
I'm probably going to say this 1,000 times today, but you need to be very careful, whatever sports book you use, to make sure you're making the right pick with the strokes or without the strokes. And I say that because we are in our first category, the first round leader category, which can be very, very confusing because of where they are starting. So, see, I'm starting with you. Who do you like?
Yeah, I'll say this. Unfortunately, of all the markets, it's the first round leader market that across a lot of books is not giving you the option without starting strokes. I noticed that on DraftKings. I noticed it on FanDuel and some other books where they're just not even giving you the option. So in other words, if Scotty's starting at -10 and Victor Hovland's starting at -8 and Rory's starting at -7, they're doing the first round leader with those strokes in mind. And so there's only a few guys that you can choose from. Again, at most books, maybe your book is different, but most of the conventional books, that's what they have, which is why at 2 back with 18 holes to play, I'm going to leave my money, leave my chips on the Victor Hovland square, because that's what I did last week when I predicted on Sunday morning, really Thursday night, but also Sunday morning, that Victor Hovland 3 strokes back would catch Scotty Scheffler. I see no reason why I shouldn't do it again when it's really just a 3 or 4 horse race at this point, since we're considering just 18 holes. So Victor Hovland at +360. He can get so hot with the short game, but specifically with the putter and the ball striking. I mean, Steve mentioned it off the tee, and it looks like this is one of his picks too. the total driving, the off the tee game, Victor Hovland, this just seems like a very nice setup for him. Coach, you're on mute. So I assume he's complimenting my
Took
pick.
us all season.
That's
for that to
probably
happen.
what just happened.
Oh, I have this person keeps coming and hitting my mute button. I don't know who it is. Maybe it's EC. Steve, I was asking you, do you like this because of the number or because of how hot he was last Sunday?
Oh, me. Yeah. So, yeah, I got to say that, Xander, Scotty Scheffler, you'd love to pick him, but Hovland, just like Sia said, I mean, Hovland is kind of in that, there's only a couple people you'd want to pick. I mean, Scotty Scheffler should probably be the first round leader, given all his stats this year, being the first round scoring average leader almost by a full shot. And I'd love to pick Xander as well, but he's 3 under. He's 7 shots behind. So, with the fact that you're not able to pick really without the starting strokes, I mean, Hovland is just kind of right in that sweet spot where you can actually, do a little something, make a little something for your money. So, it's kind of in that right spot.
Am I on the right mic now?
Yep.
Am I okay now? Yeah. Okay. Golly. I tell you what, we just go through it. This is what live TV is all about, or streaming, whatever you want to call it. But this is a perfect category, ladies and gentlemen at home. You can't bet every single category. And this is why we said at the top, you got to understand the Tour Championship. It's so different than any other tournament all year long. All right, now we're going to get to our bread and butter. Now, this is also where some books have a guy that starts at 7 against a guy that starts at 6, or 5 against a guy that starts at 4. So we'll be very, very clear in what we call our bread and butter, our head-to-head matchups. Patrick, I'm going to start with you. Which two do you like this week?
Yeah, both of these will be from guys who are starting at the same starting point, so we don't have to add that extra factor in it. And I love Tommy Fleetwood this week every which way, and that includes -120 over Ricky Fowler over the last 3 months. Fowler's 20th off the tee. Like Steve said, you really got to have your driver in order around this place. And when I think about Ricky Fowler, I think about more forgiving setups with the driver in hand, and that certainly is not Eastlake. Meanwhile, Tommy Fleetwood just seemingly contending every week, 5th in total strokes gained over the last 3 months, 5th in driving accuracy, 5th in putting. So really has a whole game working for him. And then I love Corey Connors, -115 over Tony Finau. I've been looking for Finau to show me something. I wish he made a push towards that U.S. Ryder Cup team, but ever since that Mexico Open win, he has just been dreadful. I mean, 29th in total strokes gained, 21st tee to green, 25th off the tee, 23 in approach, 30th in putting. Since that tournament, I mean, he's pretty much dead last in just about everything. Corey Connors, very accurate off the tee. He'll be playing from the fairway a bunch, a great iron player as well. So I think he'll get it done at -115 over Tony Finau.
Last week, 3 different rounds, I bet against Tony Finau, and it wasn't even close. He shot over par I even beat him with Tom Kim when Tom Kim shot over par. That's like stealing money. All right, so Sia, you clearly agree with Patrick on at least one of yours. You can go next.
What's funny too is if you recall on my early wedge, I had 4 tournament matchups, and 2 of them were against Tony Finau, and I thought I was going to cruise to victory on both of them. One of them did cruise to victory. I think it was Cam Young over Tony Finau. The other one was Ben On over Tony Finau, and Ben On just decided he didn't want to play on Sunday. Like he had something better to do. 6 over par, and I think he only lost to Tony by like 1 stroke. I mean, so he literally just completely imploded, and that's what it took for Tony Finau to win a tournament matchup. So, geez. Boy, do I like Patrick's find of Corey Connors -115 over Tony Finau, but I'm not really going to echo too much Fleetwood over Ricky Fowler. Like, it makes a lot of sense. Fleetwood has consistently maintained this game, ball striking and with the short game, whereas Ricky Fowler, ever since the Rocket Mortgage win, he's really wilted, and it's not just in one area. He's wilting with the ball striking, particularly on approach with some inconsistency and off the tee, and he's wilting with the putter. So I just really don't see why this is -120 other than the name recognition. I think this probably should be, if you took the names out of it and you just added the metrics in, this really should be like a -140, -145 pick here. So I love that one. And then Burns at +125 over Spieth. The thing about Burns, and I mentioned it in the DFS category, I do think he's trending in the right direction. He's not super accurate off the tee, but neither has Jordan Spieth been as of late. Greens in regulation, though, Burns really outclasses Jordan Spieth. And on approach lately, last 12, 16 rounds, he has outclassed Jordan Spieth. So I think this +125 number is kind of out of nowhere here. I'd have maybe put this at -110 each way, but I'll take the plus money all day.
This is not a course and not a tournament that you want to try to find your game at. And right now, I feel like Spieth the last couple of weeks, even though he had the 18-hole lead a couple of weeks ago, he's still trying to find his game right now. You don't want to find it this week. Now, Steve, interesting, as I look at my notes, you actually picked a head-to-head of a player at 8 under and a player at 7 under, but yet the player at 8 under is the underdog.
Yeah.
Interesting. You're up.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I'm going to take that little one-shot advantage and go with Viktor Hovland, the guy who's got the hot hand, the 28 on the back nine the other day to take the title. I really feel like, although Rory has played very well, his record is awesome at Eastlake. It's really good. I just think Viktor, again, he just has that little bit of a hot hand right now. And it was one thing that I heard that Colton Nost overheard, the CBS on-course guy. He said something to the effect of that he overheard Rory say, coming off the last green the other day, he ended up losing by 5 shots, but he overheard Rory kind of under his breath say something like, yeah, that was typical, typical finish or typical putting, or, just Rory's just not kind of like, I don't know. He just doesn't have that. It's not something I would have feel like Tiger probably would have said in his prime. So anyway, going Viktor there. Sungjae Im over Corey Connors. Im was 11th last week in the 3rd round in strokes gained off the tee. In the final round, he was 3rd. He only made 1 bogey over the weekend as well. So he's trending really well, feeling really good with his game. And I think more importantly, he's got a better track record at Eastlake than does Corey Connors. Corey Connors has 2 26th place finishes out of 30 and a tie for 22nd. Sungjae Im tied for 2nd last year, and the other 3 were in the top 20. So, and plus, Sungjae lives in Atlanta, so he's used to this heat. He's ready to go. Well,
he technically has a house in Atlanta.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's ever stayed there, but he's a house in Atlanta. For those of you who don't know, he stayed in a hotel for like the first 4 years of his career. He didn't have a home. He just kept playing and just kept playing. By the way, Viktor Hovland, Steve, he's made it to the Tour Championship every single year that he's been on the PGA Tour. That's how consistent Viktor Hovland is. Gentlemen, I love those head-to-head matchups. Now, let's switch gears and get into what, again, is going to be a very difficult section to even have anything in. And this is finishing position. There's only 30 players. So, see, I'm coming to you first. You actually found a name that has a plus number next to it. Crazy. Who am I talking about?
Yeah, you're talking about Tommy Fleetwood at plus 150. And I think part of the reason he has such a big plus number here, big for him at plus 150, is because he's not starting inside the top 10. He's really close to it, but he's not starting inside the top 10. But he's right outside of it. So listen, we don't have to sing the praises of Tommy Fleetwood too much. I think the one knock against Tommy Fleetwood is I don't know that he can close a tournament and win a tournament. Well, he doesn't have to worry about that here in particular, because I don't expect him to win the tournament either, especially starting so far back. But at plus 150, I mean, he's been too good all around. So it's Tommy Fleetwood inside the top 10.
All right, Steve, let me come to you, because I love when I see a plus 500 number for a top 10, especially when you only have to pass, 15, 20 players, you have 4 rounds to do it.
Yeah, look, and this for me, I'll preface this by saying, you don't want to throw a lot at this one compared to the other ones, again, because there's just not that many players who are going to actually move up given the staggered start. So Sungjae Im, for everything I just said about him, he starts 2 shots back at top 10 and only 1 back of 11th. So again, with 30 players in the field, you just don't have to pass that many players. So anyway, Sungjae at plus 230 there. Sam Burns, for everything you've said, Sia was mentioning about Sam Burns and how he's trending well. He's got one more chance to get some sort of maybe a miracle captain's pick from Zach Johnson, number 1. He was 9th in strokes gained off the tee last week, and not counting the team event in New Orleans earlier in the year where players are freed up a lot in that format. Last week was his best off the tee performance since last October. So Sam Burns has clearly found something. This golf course, not too dissimilar with the corridors you have to play down than last week at Olympia Field. So you know what? Just throw a little bit on Sam Burns and see what happens. At plus 500, you got not a lot to lose.
Just a little sprinkle. Just a little sprinkle. By the way, Steve's a big part of the PGA of America. They put on the Ryder Cup, and they announced their 6 automatic qualifiers this past, I think it was yesterday, and then they still have 6 captains picks to come. And to your point, Steve, it'll be very interesting to see what Zach Johnson decides to do. Patrick, I'm coming to you. You love Tommy Fleetwood also, and we're seeing a Russell Henley sighting for the first time today.
Yeah, didn't get involved in the first round leader market, so I figured I'd throw a few coins here with Tommy Fleetwood plus 150, simpatico with Sia. It can't go wrong, so I love that for a top 10 play. And then I'm driving the Rust Bus this week, plus 165. You get the man on a Donald Ross design where you got to split fairways and have good iron play, and that's Russell Henley to a T. Georgia boy through and through. He's comfortable in these parts, comfortable with the heat, and he's playing great golf. He's the most underrated player on the PGA Tour for my money. 6 in total strokes gained over the last half year. That's better than someone like a John Rahm, for example, which is just ludicrous to think, but that's how good Russell Henley has been. So give me a top 10 on him.
And he's not scared to go low. This week, I encourage all of you, look at the names that are at 3 under, 2 under, 4 under, and find names of guys that aren't scared to shoot a 62 or shoot a 63. Now, TJ in the chat wrote something that I would think that EC would actually write. He goes, I for sure am going to hit a top 30 play this week. Really, TJ? Kind of funny, but really? All right, now, this is over the last couple of years, this is the category that you can really make some money on if you find the right player. And you can bet with strokes, or you can bet without strokes. Counselor, I'm going to start with you because I believe all of yours are with strokes. Is that correct?
No, actually, 2 of them are without strokes. 1 is with strokes. And Coach, I'll start with the with strokes one because it's a name that we just keep talking about. It's Viktor Hovland. So again, Viktor Hovland is starting 2 back of Scottie Scheffler. He's starting, again, I know it's confusing. He's starting at 8 under. Just for perspective, that's 1 shot more than Rory McIlroy, who's starting at 7 under. I think at plus 500, he's a really solid pick here. I mean, really what you're doing in this tournament, I understand there are guys that they can have a ceiling outcome at 300 and 400 and maybe win this tournament. But I would say most of the win equity is probably caught up in those top 3 guys. And I think Hovland right now has shown, especially on a Sunday and especially with the putter in particular, which is a very important shot, by the way. Tee to green's great, but if you can't make your putt, then tee to green ain't so great. And Viktor Hovland's doing it all the way around, and that's what I love about him. So plus 500, who's the hottest guy right now in this moment? It's probably Viktor Hovland because, by the way, that low round on Sunday, he's been doing that. He has been doing the low round thing, and he can do it this tournament in the Tour Championship as well. Now I have 2 winners without starting strokes. I actually have a couple more in the long shot section, tease there, but the 2 without starting strokes, again, Tommy Fleetwood's one of them at 25-1. We've sung his praises. What that means, just to be super clear, without starting strokes, it means the 72-hole winner of this event. Erase all the starting stroke stuff. Imagine everybody starts from even par. Who's going to shoot the lowest score over those 4 rounds? That's what it means to start without starting strokes. So what I'm saying is that 25-1 over 4 rounds, Tommy Fleetwood will shoot the lowest score at 25-1. And my next guy is Sam Burns for all of the reasons that we just talked about. The great thing about Fleetwood is that he can't really close on a Sunday. I mean, at least that's what I've seen over the last, this entire year, actually. Well, he's not going to win the Tour Championship, most likely. He doesn't have to close on Sunday. He doesn't have to have that in his mind like, oh, man, I really need to chase this guy down. He's just going to be like basically freewheeling it because he's not going to have that pressure. And that's why I think he's got an even better chance to close as the 72-hole winner as opposed to the Tour Championship winner.
I think that is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Because think about this at home. All the players that start where Sam Burns starts, which is even par, they're going to put the gas pedal down because they want to win the whole damn thing. They want all that bonus money. And so you could find a player like a Sam Burns who's been on fire, and he could just go bananas because he's starting 10 shots back. Such a brilliant play by the counselor. All right, Patrick, let me come to you next because you have both of yours, I believe, without. Is that correct? Because I confuse myself.
That's correct. Yeah, these are winners without starting strokes, just typed a different way. So like Sia so nicely put, to card the low 72-hole total. Tommy Fleetwood, fairway Jesus, say no more, 25-1. And then Rust Bus, Russell Henley, 40-1. I think the market best now is 35. And then to Justin in the chat, I got the Connors over fee now at BetMGM, but I did put out the week of the St. Jude Championship. We saw Scotty Scheffler a shade under 5-1 to win the FedEx Cup. So I do have that in my back pocket, but that's long gone this week. And credit to Skyhook on Twitter for putting that one out there early.
A lot of shout outs today. I like it. Oh, what a shock. Nobody's asking EC any questions in the chat. So his personal cheerleader, Big Cheesy, has to try to get it going. Shocking. All right, Steve Scott, what do you like as far as victory is concerned?
Yeah, I'll go without the starting strokes right now. I mean, Sung J M plus 3,500. He likes this venue. He's he's got a chance. He could come from way back, and all it takes is just one round of 63, 64, and which he can do around this place, and you get right back into the mix from where he started from. But and I know in the head-to-head, I picked Victor Hovland over Rory McIlroy. So, pick one or the other, depending on which way you go. But maybe I'm just throwing this in for you here, Coach, because I know you like Rory McIlroy. It's hard to bet against this guy at this course, really. I mean, if you think about the way he drives the golf ball, he's got 3 wins here, 4 other top 10s. He's ahead of 27 of the other 29 players already. And this is a golf course he plays great on. So, he probably could and should do it this week again. So, think about what you want to do with Rory McIlroy versus Victor Hovland, kind of like I did before. But Rory McIlroy, I've got a feeling he could get something done with the big trophy this week.
I agree with you. I think Rory is one of those guys. This is what I love about the stagger start. I know not all the players like it. I get that. But this is about the entire season. This is about working up, and that's what playoffs is all about. It's kind of like having home field advantage in football. You play the whole season to get that advantage. Now, quick question. Gord says, where did you guys find the without strokes market? DraftKings has it very, very clear. You can hit it with strokes or without strokes. Anybody have the without strokes anywhere else other than DraftKings? Did anybody find it anywhere else?
I'm not sure FanDuel has it. I'd have to check.
FanDuel has it. They just list it a little bit differently. They just list it like without handicap strokes. That's the way their verbiage.
Okay. All right. Just look at the numbers and match them up with what we have. They should be pretty, pretty close. That's why you come here. Educate and entertain. Now, before we get to our final segment of the show, you guys know I got to pay those pesky little bills. My guys, they're expensive. Here's another word from one of our incredible partners.
The man, the myth, the Messi. Catch Inter Miami take on FC Cincinnati in the U.S. Open Cup on the all-new Golazo Network.
If you missed it and you're watching it live right now, yesterday Buckets hit a cash ticket in the 10th minute of stoppage time. That's after 90 minutes. 10 more minutes, he still cashed. Next level. Part of Golazo 24/7 right here at CBS. Messi has taken the United States by storm. So it also begs the question, is there a long shot that could take the Tour Championship by storm?
See, EC's doing something to my mic. I told you. Doing something to my mic. Probably on the wrong one, too. All right, long shots. That's where we're at right now. See ya. Let's start with you.
So can we just go back to Buckets for a second and Golazo? I mean, what's the deal with stoppage time anyway with soccer? Like, there's no firm calculation of that stuff. I think it's absurd that they just kind of like generically do that. Am I still like, they still do that in soccer, right? There's just anyway, a rant. Long shots. Okay, I've got one here, and then I've got kind of an interesting one that you all can consider for just a sprinkle. These are long shots, so they should be sprinkles anyway. Winner without starting strokes, I'll go with Lucas Glover because the number's so high, 55-1. Listen, he's been driving the ball great. The approach has been great. The putter can get really hot, and it's been pretty consistent. I think 55-1 as again, winner without starting strokes. So that means just the 72-hole winner. I think at 55-1, that's one to consider because honestly, I thought he would wilt in a big way last week, but he was pretty good. Even on the weekend, he wasn't great during round 4, but round 3, he was pretty great. So I think he's still really locked in, and I think he's very much incentivized to play well with a couple of things in mind there. And then I got a really fun one for you. The Tour Championship parlay with the Czech Masters, okay? We're going to go Victor Hovland, like I said, at plus 500, and Nikolai Højgaard over at the Czech Masters. I haven't completely handicapped that tournament, but I do know it's going to be an off the tee and a tee to green test, and Nikolai Højgaard checks those boxes. It's part of the reason he's only 14-1. You pair those up together. EC's in the chat. I did this for him. Victor Hovland at plus 500, parlayed with Nikolai Højgaard at plus 1,400. Well, what does that get you? It gets you the 91 winner parlay, and we're going to hit it. Let's go.
An EC special on the last regular show of the year. Next
Never
level.
done a parlay on this show ever, Coach. Not one single parlay. EC entered the chat, and I said, all right, I got to ring something up real quick. Here we go.
Next level, kid. Next level. I love it. I absolutely love it. EC says, I'm so proud, Sia. I'm so proud. All right. Well, the reason that EC isn't on the show, we'll get to next. And his name is Steve Scott. So, by the way, but EC is going to be a big part of our football coverage this weekend. Steve, tell me why you agree with Sia when it comes to Lucas. And then Keegan. Keegan has a big number this week. Talk to me.
Yeah, before I get to Lucas Glover right there, I mean, so many things. I just got to say I'm super heartbroken last week that Hovland absolutely stole my long shot pick of Matt Fitzpatrick, who tied for second. I thought I was going to get one just right there at the end, right in the heart. But Lucas Glover, he's hitting the ball great. You know, he's got not a whole lot to lose. You know, he can go and, again, he could be one of those guys. If he has a great week this week, he could be one of those guys that could be on that Ryder Cup team, given his hot hand. So throw a little bit on Lucas. Really, and then Keegan Bradley. Here's a guy, 2 wins this season. This guy bleeds red, white, and blue. I don't know if you remember back in 2012 when the U.S. lost in a dramatic fashion at Medina to the European team. Keegan Bradley is so locked into the Ryder Cup, and he was so devastated by that loss that he didn't unpack his suitcase for over 2 years from that week. So just imagine all the stinky clothes that were in there. But he just bleeds the American flag colors, and he would love to do something. So at plus 13,000, I mean, you know, throw it just a little bit, and you might get a big payday.
I didn't think that Zach Johnson was going to have such a hard time in picking his 6 players, but there's a lot of guys that you could justify, right?
Yep.
Steve,
for sure. Yeah. And it's not just the course they play the PGA Tour. It's that Marco Simone course over in Italy, which is supposed to be a little tighter, maybe a little shorter. And we'll see what happens this week.
By the way, Steve will be a part of our Ryder Cup show coming up in about 3 or 4 weeks as well. All right. Now, Patrick McDonald, I'm coming to you, big boy, because I love seeing myself a plus 8,000. I love seeing myself a plus 9,000. Explain yourself.
Yeah, someone who's definitely going to be in Rome is Tommy Fleetwood, 80-1.
I thought you were talking about yourself. I was like, damn, really?
I know Sia said he can't close on Sunday, but at 80-1, given the hot hand, the heater he is riding, I think it would be almost poetic, almost funny to a point if Tommy Fleetwood somehow came through and won the Tour Championship. The metrics have been fantastic. And then we talk about Ryder Cup selection. I don't think this man is garnering enough attention for a Ryder Cup pick. I don't think he will be picked for the Ryder Cup, but I would love to see Russell Henley really make a charge this week. And at 90-1, like I said, the most underrated player on the PGA Tour. It's a great fit for him, great setup, and he's playing great.
To be clear, when it says Russell Henley to win the Tour Championship, this is the new Tour Championship. There's no more one wins one wins the other. There's only one winner at the end of the week. So he's got to win the whole damn thing. And Russell Henley starts -3. So he's starting the week 7 back. Fleetwood in the same spot at -3 as well. All right. You guys know that we like to end every one of our shows. And I can't believe we've come to the end of our season asking my guys, my experts, the best in the business, what's the number one most important thing they're looking for this week? Sia, let's start with you.
What's really interesting to me is we've had this entire season, and usually every year we've got like a couple of guys that we consider the cream of the crop. You know, it's usually, you know, Rahm, Rory, Scotty Scheffler. I wonder if Victor Hovland is going to replace somebody in that conversation. He really has a chance to do so, obviously, if he wins the Tour Championship. But I mean, you know, with John Rahm wilting and Rory just being great, but not great enough to close, you know, as often as people think, and Scotty Scheffler having a problem with the putter, Are we about to see sort of the beginnings, or maybe we're seeing the endings of what will be Victor Hovland being the best player in the world? I think he's going to win the Tour Championship, and I think he's going to enter that conversation going into next season. And I'm kind of excited about it because he's a really easy guy to root for.
You're damn right he is. Patrick, talk to me.
I'm looking to Scotty Scheffler and him putting a bow on an all-time season. You look at the scoring average; it's only in the neighborhood of Tiger Woods in the 2000s, of VJ's season as well. And what he's done this year has just been next level. He deserves the win. He deserves to throw his name into the Player of the Year category with Jon Rahm. I think if he wins the FedEx Cup, he will get that title back to back, and he deserves it after squandering a 5-stroke lead on Sunday last year. So I'm looking for world number one, Scotty Scheffler, the best player in 2023, to put a bow on an all-time season.
2 straight years, over $21 million. Can he put that stamp that Patrick is talking about and become a FedEx Cup champion? Now, Steve Scott, what are you looking forward to?
Well, it's not maybe, I think you guys both outlined it perfectly about what's probably going to happen this week, but it's not really what I'm looking forward to. It's what I really am appreciative of. I'm appreciative of everybody, the chat, and all you guys just really supporting and welcoming me into this family that you have here on the Early Wedge with open arms. And, it's been so much fun to be with you on these big events this year. And, to cap it all off this week, I wish everybody all the luck in the world on their picks, but I just can't thank you guys enough for everything you've done and all your support. And, God willing, I'll be back for some more, and it'll be fun.
Well, you are going to be back for some more, because I got to tell you, when we started this brand in 2020, and by the way, we haven't missed one single day since 2020, but we've evolved into other shows. And the Early Wedge, when we decided to do that this year, we didn't know what it was going to be. We didn't know who was going to be on it. We didn't know that Steve Scott was going to become such a big part of what we do, but that's exactly how you build a brand. You become smart, you get really good people that you enjoy working with, and this is what comes out. But we can't do it without all of you at home. So thank you for finding us, tuning in live, watching us on demand, and trusting us, because that's, at the end of the day, what this is. It's about trust, and that's what we do. That's what we do. So with all that being said, damn it, I am fired up to call the Tour Championship this week. We will have round-by-round picks. I'll be hosting every single day. It's a late start, only 30 players, so nothing changes, especially this. There's only one thing left to do, and I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these Early Wedge tickets straight to the pay window. For my entire crew, Lumbo, Steve Scott, the counselor, Patrick McDonald, EC in the chat, and the Snake doing all the hard work behind the scenes. The show looks like $1 million. We grind for you so we can win with you. It's truly what we're all about at the Early Edge, and also right here at the Early Wedge. Good luck.